backgrounds and organizations coming up all over the place. It's what I call the blueprint. And this is not just happening now. This has been long planned. One of the major points where this manipulation of human society in terms of removing freedoms and removing freedom of expression and selling a belief system of fear about various groups came from was an organization or a group called the Frankfurt School. Now, the Frankfurt School were set up in Frankfurt, Germany, the place from where the Rothschilds' global empire was launched. And the Frankfurt School was established in 1923, and it was a gathering of Rothschild Zionist, what were called then neo-Marxist theorists, who created this social engineering, society engineering network. The Frankfurt School was funded into existence by Felix Wiel, Rothschild Zionist. The first director was Karl Gunberg, Rothschild Zionist. He was followed as director by Max Horkheimer, Rothschild Zionist. The two main influences on the school's thinking were Theodor Adorno, Rothschild Zionist, and Herbert Marcuse, Rothschild Zionist. And it moved out eventually into Switzerland and then into New York in 1935. And then it moved in 1941 to California. And this was the part of the list of what it planned to do at that time to American society, indeed global society, but we're talking in America now. One, continual change to create confusion. We want change. I stand for change. The teaching of sex and homosexuality to children, the undermining of schools and teachers' authority, huge immigration to destroy national identity, the promotion of excessive drinking, emptying churches, in other words, targeting anything that brought people together and brings people together, a legal system with bias against victims of crime, dependency on the state or state benefits, control and dumbing down of the media, encouraging the breakdown of the family. That's just some of them. Now, when we look from the perspective of 2011 to that kind of ambition all those decades ago, we can see that they achieved it. And one expression of this Frankfurt School social engineering of human perception and human society is the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Anti-Defamation League, Simon Wiesenthal Center, and all these other groups. It's just another
squad. It's a goon squad with the perfect front out, out as a perimeter, and that is the Holocaust and Hitler and the Jews. Even though, as I've mentioned here several times this week and last week, it came to my attention that 6 million people died in the Congo in the last 10 years. That's, I guess, not a Holocaust, and they don't have a lot of front organizations in order to protect their interests. That clip had a lot of interesting things in it, and as you say, these talking points from the Southern Poverty Law Center directed against you and me indirectly, because I'm connected to you, and we talk about currency, we talk about newspeak, but some of the things he said, he mentions Ayn Rand and says, that brings out this idea that anti-collectivism is bad somehow, and individualism is bad, and Ron Paul is bad, of course. I mean, this shows you kind of who benefits from this. Of course, also, well, these people think the government is their enemy. When I'm reading the Constitution, it pretty much says the same thing. If you want to take it to that level. Again, talking about grammar and newspeak, that, of course, being pointed out, rightly or wrongly, certainly wrongly with a lot of bullets and innocent people, by Jared Lee Lohner, as we call him. So you have all of this, and it all just comes pouring out like verbal diarrhea.
It's so blatant and pathetic to anyone that has any conception of actually what's going on. What they've done and what they seek to do more powerfully, and this is why the awakening is so desperately dangerous to them, and they know it, is they've sought to build a bubble around human perception that holds it in a tiny, tiny range of possibility or sense of possibility. So anyone that then comes along and threatens to burst that bubble by providing information to get people or give people the opportunity to look at life themselves and society they live in a different way, look at it from a different angle and come to different conclusions, is extremely dangerous, fundamentally dangerous to that Orwellian global fascist dictatorship that they wish to impose. And thus, pathetically, blatantly, to anyone with a brain cell on active duty, they list all the dangerous information, or a lot of it anyway, and then dub that as the profile, the personality profile of these monsters they're seeking to manifest. It's so blatantly bloody obvious. And what's also staggering to me and
well, hold on to that, because it is a lot of this is staggering. David Icke is with us. DavidIcke.com, I-C-K-E. New book is amazing. Human Race, Get Off Your Knees. I've got about 20% of it dog-eared, and the rest will be soon. Does the Fed benefit from killers equaling talking about currency? David Icke will be right back with us. Deadline Live right after this. That's exactly what they did. There was also, as we've noted here on this show, well, like it or not, I'm not trying to come to any conclusions, but I just wanted to point out there are a lot of 9/11s in this shooting, which some would say might be a calling card. David Icke has been so kind to join us here in the first hour. In the second hour today, the makers of this viral new cartoon about the Federal Reserve here on Hamilton's birthday. Take that, Alexander. The filmmakers of the American Dream cartoon will be with us in the second hour of the show today. David Icke is with us. This new book is fantastic. Human Race, Get Off Your Knees. The Lion Sleeps No More. Cost you 20 quid. It'll be the best $35 you've ever spent. It's got all history in there and some really fun stuff to read, too, about the moon and other things that David has been researching. Please do yourself a favor. Don't go to the movie this week. Buy this book. You'll be glad that you did. David, so much to get to here. You know, part of this whole thing about the, the coals being thrown on the fire left and right, again, that's coming out of all of this. The anti-rhetoric. It's no rhetoric, but then they're using rhetoric, as we just heard from Mark Potok and Keith Obamaman. And again, here is the left and the right being forced at each other's throats, even when they have every desire to join together to stop things like the Federal Reserve, which plays into all of this once again.
Well, when you look at the target population in terms of numbers, Jack, and then you look at the numbers of that which is seeking to control the target population, then the difference is just staggering. I mean, it's fantastic. Therefore, that which is seeking to manipulate and impose itself must divide and rule the target population. It must. It can't, and it also must recruit from the target population in terms of enforcement, those which will enforce the imposition of the few on the target population, which most of the enforcers actually are part of, and whose children and grandchildren will have to live in if we allow it to happen. So it's the manipulation of the target population and the divide and rule of it that is absolutely foundation, bottom line to what they're trying to do. And thus they have to, first of all, create the perception of left and right. I mean, they created the perception of one polarity being fascism and one polarity being communism. Well, I think if you asked people under both of those regimes, they wouldn't really see much difference, except in this, that, and the other. It's still a centralized dictatorship of the few imposing its will by force on the many. Never mind what name it is, but because of that, we see different things when actually what they are, as I said in a book many years ago, opposames. They're different names for the same thing, but they are brilliant for creating the perception of difference, the perception of choice, therefore divide and rule.
I love that term, opposames, folks. That is, I've used that before, and I had to credit you for that. I'm sure I thought of it sometime first, and you got it from me, David. But no,
it doesn't matter.
But here's the thing. And talk about opposames. We have two cousins, one Sarah Palin and cousin Barry Obama. They're cousins. It's admitted in the mainstream media. And, David, you've covered this extensively, this bloodline thing, ruling elite. So by demonizing cousin Sarah, they actually boost her base and continue to divide and rule here in the country. I mean, they couldn't have engineered any of this any better if they had planned it for years.
No, and what people need to do, I would suggest, is just look at the hypocrisy and look at the doublespeak that goes on. And the great example you mentioned a few minutes ago is that one side is saying about the violent rhetoric of one side, and the side saying that is doing the same about the side they're accusing of it. But so you have to kind of filter it in a calm way so that you can see all these things going on with not sides doing different things, but different groups on the same sides basically doing the same thing. A wonderful example of this hypocrisy and this doublespeak is the fact that Obama and all these moralizing rent-a-quotes that we've been seeing in the last few days since this horrific shooting can't find a bloody microphone quick enough to condemn this very strange and deranged man doing what he did. But my goodness me, that you'll never hear them say a word because it's all about, it's violence. We can't have violence in America. We can't have violence and all this stuff. We must do this. We must take your freedoms away to stop this violence. And yet, where are they when we're looking at the mass murder of civilians in Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, year after year, month after month, where American taxpayers' money is being used to advance the systematic genocide day by day of the Palestinian people in that part of the world. Not a word said about that, but all the moralizing is about, it's like, you know, people moralize about 9/11. Oh, 3,000 people died. Well, yes, and it was terrible. It was horrific. But about 1 million people have been killed and maimed in Iraq alone as a result of that war over all these years. Never mind these other countries. And it's that this hypocrisy, in some ways...
Yeah, they're the killers, they're mass murderers and genocidal maniacs, and they're pointing the finger at me and you going, oh, what you're saying could cause violence.
Exactly, and that's what we need to see, and that's what we need to expose. This simple, massive hypocrisy between that which will support mass murder and genocide, but then gets on its high horse pointing its finger at something like a shooting, terrible as it was. 6 people dead and terrible injuries to the congresswoman. Yes, terrible. Should not have happened. Rightly condemned. But hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people killed around the world as a result of British and American government and military actions. Not a bloody word.
Well, and it's business as usual, so to speak. What about this? Every incident we have had in this country, as long as I've been really paying attention, at least for the last 10 years, and especially under cousin Barry Obama for the last few years, have been an FBI sting operation. You know, non-attack attacks, bombs going off that don't really go off. We're to believe that, you know, every situation, the Times Square bomber, the Christmas tree bomber, the underpants bomber, the shoe bomber, you know, every single one of them are too incompetent to make an actual bomb. All right, I'll accept that on face value. But if everything is a sting operation, then why shouldn't we be looking at this as MK Ultra sting operation? We're getting more details about the parents. The mom is a bureaucrat somehow. She is Jewish, by the way, as was the victim in all of this. I mean, this again, cost-benefit analysis, David, because the judge was getting tough on drugs and drug smuggling. That cuts into Poppy Bush's business and the usual suspects. The dad of this shooter, a mess by all accounts, and had some horrible thing happen to him. He's shut down absolutely, completely. As you know, that is the bridge to mind control. You've got the shooter talking about mind control constantly, using this thing called lucid dreaming / remote viewing and all of this. You got to at least go into that possibility, don't we?
Yes, of course we do. And we must not be cowered into not doing so by these idiots like Potok or Botox, whatever his bloody name is, from this Southern Poverty Law Center. He must use Botox to keep a straight bloody face, some of the rubbish he talks, and must know it's rubbish. You know, we need to do that. And the reason, of course, because the reason there's so many sting operations